Welcome to Inside Insights, your quick hit of tips, tools, and trends for manufacturing, distribution, and Dynamics 365 Business Central, brought to you by InsightWorks.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to picture a scenario that I think is going to feel painfully, viscerally familiar to anyone who spent even a week in sales or operations. It's the phantom inventory nightmare.
Oh, I know this one well. It's the classic business horror story.
It really is. So you're on the phone with a huge client. Maybe it's the biggest account you've landed all year. They need 50 units of your top-selling widget, and, they need them yesterday.
Of course.
You check your screen. Your ERP, your supposed source of truth, says, in stock, 100. You smile, you tell the client, done deal, consider it shipped, and you hang up feeling like an absolute hero.
And that is the moment the clock starts ticking toward disaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because 2 hours later, you get that frantic email or, the Slack message from the warehouse manager, we can't ship this.
And why?
Because those 50 units, they were physically on the shelf, sure. But, they were already promised to 3 other customers. Or maybe they're damaged and nobody logged it. Or maybe they're just gone.
The system said yes, but reality said no.
And now you have to make that apology call. You have to explain that your source of truth was, it was lying.
That isn't just an inventory problem. That is a credibility problem. And honestly, it's what we're here to solve today. We're doing a deep dive into a document called Systemic Order Allocation and Fulfillment Control in Business Central.
Which I'll admit sounds a little dry on the surface. Allocation control. It sounds like something you'd read in an instruction manual for a toaster.
Right.
But stick with us, because this is basically a manifesto on how to stop managing your warehouse based on luck and start managing it based on reality.
It really is. The mission today isn't just to talk about shipping boxes. We are investigating why that disconnect happens, why the screen says one thing and the shelf says another. We're going to look at the mechanics of allocation and how to move from, chaotic manual guesswork to a system that actually keeps its promises.
And here's the teaser for everyone listening. We're going to look at why Microsoft Business Central, which is this massive, powerful platform, sometimes struggles with this specific thing right out of the box. But more importantly, we're going to look at the solution. We're going to talk about how a set of apps from InsightWorks acts as this execution layer to fix the broken promises of order fulfillment.
Right. Because having the data is one thing. Controlling what happens with that data is something else entirely.
So let's start with the anatomy of the breakdown. The source material, it paints a pretty chaotic picture of the relationship between the warehouse and the sales team. It talks about conflicting inventory commitments. What does that actually look like on the ground?
Well, the source describes it as teams operating under inconsistent stock assumptions. Think about it from the sales side. A salesperson looks at the ELP and they see a number. To them, that number represents opportunity.
Right. It's on the screen so I can sell it.
Exactly. If it says 100, that's 100 opportunities to close a deal. But the warehouse team is living in a totally different reality. They know that 100 isn't a solid block of available stock. They know that 20 of those are part of a kit that's currently being assembled. They know another 30 are sitting on a pallet that just came off a truck and haven't been quality checked yet.
I see.
And maybe another 40 are technically there, but they've been mentally earmarked for a VIP client who is calling in an order tomorrow.
So the sales team is seeing a snapshot, but the warehouse team is seeing a movie.
That's a great way to put it, and the consequence is obvious. You promise orders that you cannot ship on time because you're essentially selling the same item twice.
And when you realize you're short on stock, that's when the manual trap kicks in. This is one of the most interesting parts of the reading for me. The source describes a scenario where, because the system isn't enforcing rules, deciding who gets the inventory becomes a fight.
It becomes political. And this is where businesses really, really bleed efficiency. When inventory is limited and you don't have a system automatically deciding who gets what, the decision falls to humans. And humans are influenced by pressure.
So if I'm a salesperson and I go down to the warehouse and I start yelling,
The squeaky wheel strategy. Yes.
I might get my order shipped.
You might. If salesperson A is in the warehouse screaming about their commission or their angry client, the warehouse manager just wants them to leave. So they give them the stock. It doesn't matter if salesperson B's order was in the queue first or if salesperson C's order is actually more profitable for the company.
That sounds absolutely exhausting.
It's not just exhausting, it's so inefficient. You're reallocating stock based on volume. the volume of a voice, not the volume of business. And that leads directly to what I call the backorder black hole.
Oh, I like this part. Or, well, I hated it because it sounded so stressful. The source talks about back orders accumulating without any clear prioritization. Walk us through that.
So think about the mechanics of a back order. You run out of stock. You have 50 orders waiting. In a lot of systems, or even in manual setups, those 50 orders are just a pile. Maybe it's a digital list. Maybe it's a literal stack of paper orders on a clipboard.
And then the truck shows up with new stock.
Right. The receiving dock checks in the new items. Now, you have 50 hungry orders and only enough stock for, say, 20 of them. Who gets it?
I would assume the oldest orders, first in, first out.
Ideally, yes. But if you're relying on a human to manually sort through that stack of 50 orders, cross-reference the dates, check for priority customers, and then assign the stock, that takes time.
A lot of time.
A lot of time. And while they're doing that, the phone is ringing, the truck driver is waiting for a signature, and that salesperson is back yelling at them.
So they just grab the first 20 orders they see.
Often, yes. Or they grab the biggest ones to clear the most space. The source points out that staff often don't know what to pick or how to reprioritize. So instead of executing orders, actually packing boxes, valuable time is wasted just trying to resolve these conflicts. They're playing detective instead of doing logistics.
So if we look for the root cause, and the source is pretty explicit here, it's the absence of a structured system-driven allocation process.
That is the key phrase, system-driven. When commitments are managed outside the ERP, like on a spreadsheet shared by 3 managers or on sticky notes saying save for Bob, the main system doesn't reflect real-time availability.
There are no automated alerts.
None. There's nothing to say, stop, we can't fulfill this.
It's like flying a plane with no instruments. You're just looking out the window and hoping for the best.
And in a modern, high-volume warehouse, looking out the window just doesn't cut it. You need radar.
Okay, so that's the problem. Chaos, fighting over stock, the backorder black hole. Now, let's talk about the platform itself. We're talking about Business Central. And I want to be fair here. The source material says Business Central is a fantastic platform. It does a lot of things well.
Oh, it absolutely does. Business Central is a powerhouse for finance and general operations. It tracks your on-hand quantities, your on-order quantities, your reserved quantities.
It gives you the fundamental data.
Yes, exactly. It supports partial shipments. All the foundational pieces are there.
But, and here is the big question, if it tracks the numbers, why the chaos? Why do we still have this phantom inventory problem if the software is counting the widgets?
Because tracking isn't the same as controlling. This is a nuance that a lot of people miss. The source explicitly states that native functions in Business Central require significant manual oversight.
Can we dig into that? What does manual oversight look like in an ERP?
Okay, so Business Central has a function called reservations. You can reserve a specific item for a specific order, but native reservation is often very rigid. It's a hard link. If I reserve item A for customer B, that item is locked.
That sounds good though, right? That guarantees the stock.
It guarantees it for that one customer, yes.
Yeah.
But it creates rigidity. What if customer B doesn't need it for 3 weeks, but customer C needs it today and is willing to pay a premium? Native Business Central doesn't typically have a dynamic logic-based engine to automatically shuffle those priorities around without a human going in and manually unreserving and re-reserving everything.
I see. It lacks the brain to make those trade-off decisions automatically.
Exactly. It lacks automated rule enforcement for what we call soft allocation. It doesn't look at the whole pool of demand and the whole pool of supply and, optimize the match. It just connects dots one by one.
So if a big order gets canceled and 50 units free up, Business Central doesn't automatically look at the back order list and say, okay, give 10 to Steve, 20 to Sarah, and hold the rest.
Generally, no. It
Yeah.
just sits there until a human notices. This forces the operational staff to act as the glue. They are constantly manually updating statuses to keep the teams aligned. And humans, unfortunately, are terrible at real-time database management while they're also trying to drive forklifts.
That is a very fair point. So we have a good foundation with Business Central, but we have a gap in logic and execution. This brings us to the solution section of our deep dive. The source introduces this concept of operational extensions from InsightWorks.
Yes. And this is where the conversation shifts from what's wrong to how do we fix it. InsightWorks offers a suite of apps that really act as an execution layer. They sit on top of Business Central and fill those logic gaps we just talked about.
Let's break them down because there are 3 specific apps mentioned that work together here. First up is the Order Fulfillment Worksheet.
Think of this as the centralized brain.
The brain. Okay, explain that. What is this brain thinking about?
So the source describes this as a rule-based allocation engine. Remember how we said Business Central lacks automated rules for prioritization? This app supplies them. It acts as a calculator for your logistics logic.
So instead of me manually deciding who gets the stock, I set up rules.
Precisely. You tell the system, I want to prioritize orders that can be shipped 100% complete. Or, I want to prioritize my gold tier customers. Or, maybe I want to prioritize by the promised delivery date. The order fulfillment worksheet looks at all your inventory in real time and all your demand, and it runs that calculation.
And then it tells you what to pick.
It creates the picks, yes. But more importantly, it creates picks only when they align with confirmed inventory commitments.
That is a huge distinction. It won't let you create a pick for a ghost item.
Correct. It stops the error before it even gets to the warehouse floor. It acts as that execution layer. It says, I have checked the math, I have checked the rules, and I am authorizing these specific movements. It turns that soft allocation, the intent to ship, into a hard instruction.
Okay, so the brain, the order fulfillment worksheet, has made the plan. It's crunched the numbers, it's decided customer A gets the widgets, but a plan is useless if nobody follows it. That leads us to the second app, Warehouse Insight.
If the worksheet is the brain, then Warehouse Insight is the hands on the ground.
This is the mobile part, right? The handheld scanners.
Yes. This is barcode-driven execution on mobile devices. But I want to be really clear here. It's not just a scanner for recording what you did. A lot of people think scanning is just digital note-taking. The source emphasizes that Warehouse Insight enables enforced scanning and validation.
Enforced being the operative word there.
It is vital. It ensures that what happens physically in the warehouse matches exactly what the digital allocation engine decided.
So if the brain said, pick item A for order 1, and the worker tries to pick item B.
Scanner stops them. It flashes red. It beeps. It says invalid pick.
And what if they try to be a Robin Hood? You know, the worker sees that order 2 is for their buddy in sales, so they try to grab the item allocated to order 1 and put it in order 2's box.
The system won't allow it. It enforces the allocation. This is critical because it removes the subjectivity from the floor. The warehouse worker doesn't have to make complex decisions about who gets what. They just follow the instructions on their screen.
It sounds so simple, but think about how many errors that prevents. No more, I thought you meant this one, or I grabbed the one on the left.
It's massive. It removes the human variable from routine tasks. It forces the physical reality to align perfectly with the system reality.
So, brain makes the plan, hands execute the plan, but we still have to get it out the door. That's the third app mentioned in the source, Dynamic Ship.
Right. We can call Dynamic Ship the final check, or maybe the gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Now, I know Dynamic Ship handles things like carrier integration, talking to FedEx, UPS, printing labels. But how does it fit into this allocation story?
It's the final validation point. Its primary job is shipping, yes, but in this context, it has a critical constraint. It respects the allocated quantities. Meaning you cannot ship what hasn't been properly allocated by the system. Let's go back to that midnight requisition scenario. Imagine a salesperson sneaks into the warehouse, grabs a box of widgets that are actually allocated to someone else, and brings them to the shipping station.
Just print me a label quick.
Exactly. In a manual world, the shipper might just type in the address and print a label. But with Dynamic Ship integrated into this stack, the system checks the record. It sees this item was never allocated to this order. It sees the brain didn't authorize it and the hands didn't pick it.
So it refuses to print the label.
It refuses. It just says no.
I love that. It's a closed loop. The worksheet allocates, Warehouse Insight validates the pick, and Dynamic Ship validates the pack and ship.
It creates a chain of custody for every single item, from the moment of allocation to the moment it leaves the building.
Let's synthesize this. We've moved from Section 1, chaos, shouting, manual spreadsheets, the backorder black hole, to Section 4, from chaos to control. How do these pieces really change the daily life of a business?
It's a shift from manual, error-prone processes to structured, traceable workflows. That's the high-level view. But practically, it means a shift in culture. You go from a culture of firefighting to a culture of exception management.
Meaning you stop running around trying to fix things and start only dealing with the weird stuff.
That's it, exactly. In the old way, every order was a potential crisis. In the new way, the rules handle 95% of the orders automatically. The staff only has to get involved when something truly unusual happens, like a truck breaks down or a pallet falls over.
And there's another benefit the source mentions that I think is really important for the sales team: real-time feedback.
Yes, this is all about customer service. Because the system, specifically the order fulfillment worksheet, is constantly calculating real availability against demand, it provides alerts when allocations can't be met.
Which goes right back to my opening story. Instead of calling the client 2 hours later to apologize, you know immediately.
You can manage it proactively. If you enter an order and the system says allocation failed, you know right then and there. You can say to the customer, hey, I can see we're tight on stock. I can ship 40 now and 10 next week. Does that work?
Or we're out of stock, let's look at a substitute.
Right. You aren't blindsided. It allows for proactive management of partial shipments rather than reactive apologies.
And that saves the relationship. I always say, customers can handle bad news. They can't handle lies. And promising stock you don't have is essentially a lie, even if it's unintentional.
Precisely. It builds trust. When you say it will ship tomorrow, they know it will ship tomorrow because the system has already locked it down.
So let's wrap this up. We've gone on quite a journey here. We started with the stress of phantom inventory, the sales team promising the moon, and the warehouse team holding the bag.
And we saw that while Business Central provides the data foundation, the accounting of what you have, it often leaves a gap in the logic of execution. It doesn't always know who should get the product when push comes to shove.
A gap that is filled by insight works. We have the order fulfillment worksheet as the brain, doing the math and enforcing your rules. We have warehouse insight as the hands, enforcing the scan and preventing errors. And dynamic ship as the gatekeeper, ensuring nothing leaves without a ticket.
It creates a streamlined system where the apps enforce the rules that Business Central establishes. It takes the personnel variable out of the equation for routine decisions.
The source material draws a conclusion that I think is really profound. It says order fulfillment isn't just about moving product.
No, it is a control and process visibility issue. That is the philosophy here. If you can't see it, you can't control it via rules, you aren't fulfilling orders, you're just gambling.
It really changes how you look at a warehouse. It's not just shelves and boxes, it's a data environment.
It is. And the most successful companies are the ones that treat their physical inventory and their digital inventory as one and the same. There's no daylight between the two.
So here's the final thought for you to chew on today, derived from everything we've read. It's a question of management style.
Right. If your system allows you to promise inventory you don't effectively control, if you can promise a box that might not be there, ask yourself this. Are you managing a warehouse or are you just managing luck?
Oof, that's a heavy question.
It is, but maybe the greatest efficiency isn't speed. Maybe it isn't how fast you can run to the shelf. Maybe the greatest efficiency is the automated discipline to say no to a shipment until the system says yes.
The discipline to say no. I like that, because saying no to a bad order today prevents the disaster tomorrow.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. Hopefully your inventory is real, your allocations are solid, and your phantom inventory has been busted. Thanks for listening.
Until next time.